terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001, the number of troops needed in the military rose in order to support first one and then two wars. After the troops left Iraq and a drawdown began in Afghanistan, the military members started leaving the military in pursuit of other goals. Many of these veterans turned to college to pursue a higher education. This transition, however, is not always fluid and can be overwhelming to some. To assist in this transition, more and more colleges and universities create organizations for student veterans to band together and help each other with the transition. Herself, a military child and then spouse, the founder and director of the Missouri Students Veterans Association, Carol Fleischer gives her views on how these organizations help.
We also have the MSVA, which does create a community of veterans for veterans to get together with and talk things over, talk about old times in the military, and talk the military talk with all of the acronyms that if you were sitting and talking with a student in your class, wouldn't have a clue about what you're talking about.
Because of this difference in terminology that veterans are used to using, it tends to create a rift in conversations. This, along with the age difference of the same year students, tends to make the transition harder. But for each individual, there are also more personalized issues.
The age difference between an 18-year-old and a 28-year-old is much bigger than a 28-year-old and a 38-year-old, even though they're only 10 years apart. In maturity, they're huge. And so if you're sitting in class with an 18-year-old whose last big decision was who was I going to take to the prom, and they're talking about getting fake IDs or going out and trying to get drinks or dating and that sort of thing. Most of the veterans have been there, done that many times, and they've gotten through that phase in their life. So they get bored with sitting in class all day and listening to that.
Thankfully, I took about a semester off between getting out and starting on school again to kind of transition, I guess, back to the civilian lifestyle. It's difficult to sit in a room completely surrounded by people and not be looking at every single movement and checking things out. You just kind of get wired differently after a while. So,
getting a job was definitely extremely hard. I sent out 20 different applications, and nobody emailed me or called me or anything, which kind of was a little discouraging.
Well, one of them is just kind of transitioning back into college. Getting back into the whole education field alone is a challenge. First semester, I came in with the knowledge of, hey, I dedicated this much amount of time to work, and so transitioning to school should be easy. I just jump right in and everything will be fine. Come to realize that there's a learning curve that takes place there. You have to get your mindset back into the whole creating study time, setting up your schedule around that, managing time so you have time to work, time to relax, and time to get everything done. There's also moving to a completely new city where you don't really know anybody. Most of your friends already graduated college years ago.
While some of the issues associated with the transition can also be applied to non-veteran students, such as finding a job, a place to stay, and new friends, veterans have the additional problem of disassociating the stresses of military life and adapting to the new stresses of student life.
Obviously, the big hot or buzzword, I guess, is PTSD. I had things projected towards me, and I projected things towards other people, but I don't struggle with that. Anxiety is still a factor, not near as bad as it was when I first got out. The level of responsibility that I had in the Marine Corps versus things I do on a daily basis here are a little different ends of the spectrum. Every time I did my job in Afghanistan or in the Marines, somebody was supposed to die. So that's how I looked at everything that I did, because after doing that every day, day in and day out for so long, you just look at every task as though somebody's life depends on you doing this correctly. So it was very interesting for me to do things that didn't necessarily matter, and I could put things off, and so what if this gets messed up? It's not that big of a deal. But then at the same time, seeing people look at their entire lives in that manner is definitely a stressor for me.
In the military, it was pretty much just all about getting your job done and getting your job done right. You knew exactly what you were expected to do. You knew what your responsibilities were for that day, and you could easily manage that along with your personal life. You come home, you start dealing with family. Like for me, I'm going to school, so I also have to juggle my schoolwork. I have to do work, which is also entertaining, and also there's your personal life. You also have to juggle all that together. You have to adjust yourself to learning how to properly speak to people again. We can tend to come off as more aggressive, as where people around you are more passive. They're less type A personality.
With all the bad connotations that are generally associated with veterans and stress, stresses that are faced while serving often prepares the veterans for success outside of the military. These beneficial lessons, such as time management, job prioritizing, and discipline, are stressed into the veterans from day one of their boot camps.
Time management, I guess I learned a lot about that. Like, in the military, you don't exactly get, they don't really care, if you get sleep. That's not really a top priority. The priority is getting the job done. So, you might have 1,000 things to do. So you kind of learn how to, okay, I can get this one done in 2 hours. I can get this one done in 3 hours. Let's go. Or, so whenever you get to college, it's like, all right, I need to read 100 pages in this book. I need to write a paper. And I need to do an online exam. Sort them out and go for it. So definitely time management. And also, just kind of learning, not to, freak out about stupid stuff. I think I learned a lot about kind of keeping my cool and also asking help. I learned a lot about asking help.
Discipline's a big one. Knowing that things have to get done, so you get them done. In the Marines, you know as well as I do that it didn't matter how you get it done; it just has to get done. So, that's a big one. Responsibility, like I was talking about earlier, which kind of factors into the discipline. Knowing that I can run on very little sleep, finals and being able to pull long days, many times in a row is nice.
The cross-cultural diversity that's in the military kind of starts preparing you for your transition into civilian life, because one day you'll have this person as your supervisor and their managing and directing style is completely different than that of the last person that you were just dealing with. And so learning to adapt to the different personalities that people have and be more tolerant of the fact that not everybody has the same level of thinking that you do. You don't think the same way that a normal civilian does. You don't see things the same way as a normal civilian does.
So, with all the problems that veterans face while transitioning, and with all the help they can receive from other veterans who have also went through the process, why are there still veterans being overwhelmed?
We have many veterans who come to the university, and we'll talk to them about the Mizzou Student Veterans Association and the meetings and or the different programs that we do for the students, and they'll all kind of, oh yeah, no, I got out of the military so I could be away from military people. And it typically takes less than a semester for that same person who has just said that to venture into the first MSVA meeting.
But a lot of people come back to, okay, I need to talk to somebody who understands what's going on and who I can relate to. And it's not that you can't relate to a lot of the students that you're with in classes, but the time doesn't necessarily present itself. So
they get lonesome for being able to talk with other people who have the same experience.
Research has shown what seems to be a consensus here. Involvement in a community is the best way to help students succeed both in and out of the classroom. Newly transitioning veterans should not just look for help from other veterans, they can also learn wisdom to make their collegiate time that much easier.
don't go it alone. Definitely reach out to the veterans organizations that are around you. And they know what you need to do, what you're going through, and what it's like. So
Definitely don't be afraid to like ask other people that are going through the same thing. Don't be afraid to like ask questions about stuff that you don't know whenever you come to Mizzou or to the university or wherever. And get used to being the new guy. Especially if you come out of the military and you're like, I was the senior guy in my company or whatever, or senior guy in my platoon, and then you get out of the military, now you're a freshman. Like you're the bottom guy on the bottom totem pole. So it happens. It's just part of every organization. So.
Even though there are now multiple avenues for transitioning veterans to seek out help, there is still the problem that veterans have, continue to, and will always face. Non-veterans who do not know that there are subjects that veterans do not feel comfortable facing.
They will definitely make some comments where you'll sit there and be like, okay. You have to sit there and understand that, hey, they have no idea what they're talking about. The image that they have of the military is very, very vague and very, very blinded by Hollywood, pretty much. What they see in the movies and what they hear about in the news is what they have to go off of. Other than that, they have no idea as to what military life is, what it entails, and what you as a veteran have gone through.
Sometimes they can be asked inappropriate questions by an 18 or a 19-year-old whose closest they've ever come to combat was their combat game. And, they'll ask inappropriate questions like, what was life like? Have you killed people? Have you seen dead people? All those things that typical 18-year-old has not done or has not experienced. They assume that all veterans have. And even if the veteran has, the veteran doesn't want to talk about it 9 times out of 10. So you can get into uncomfortable situations talking with a maturity level difference as well as an age difference and very much as an experience difference. So I think those are some of the bigger things that come into play.
Just like anybody else, just treat us with the same respect that you would treat anybody else. We're all individuals. There's a lot of stereotypes that go around, especially in the college community. And don't focus on somebody's stereotype. Focus on who they are. Treat them as an individual and treat anybody and everybody with respect.
Unfortunately, not all of us got the opportunity to go to Iraq or Afghanistan. So, not all of us, were that, gung-ho, like, band of brothers, like, machine guns blazing guys. Some of us were IT guys, that worked on computers in Virginia. So we're just like everybody else as far as, like, we're approachable. We're not some scary, we're going to kill you type thing.
Finally, for those of you that are interested in meeting student veterans, there are plenty of opportunities.
Join our programs. If not join our programs, at least attend them. We have really great speakers that come in, noted speakers, interesting speakers. We have programs throughout the year, most notably the Veterans Week, which is an entire week of things, and get to know a veteran. And then, of course, thank a veteran for his service.
I'm talking about Vietnam.